Now it says recording. So my note worked. All right, I can throw that away.
Hi, Eva. Nice to meet you.
It's technology and me. We don't get along too well every time, so.
Brenda, where are you at?
I'm in Concord, New Hampshire. I'm with Keller Williams Metro out of Bedford.
All right.
In cold New Hampshire.
Hey, it was up in the 40s. It felt like sunny Florida.
Well, you're out there in shorts and a t-shirt.
No, I'm not, but from minus 40 to mid 40s this week.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's a big swing. And Adam, should he decide to join us, is in California. And I'm, of course, in Arizona. And Ava's down in Miami.
Okay, nice.
All right. So
Chile,
let's,
Miami.
what was that?
Chile, Miami.
Chile, yeah, Chile, Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Tell New Hampshire about cold, Ava. Go ahead. I dare you. All right.
Hey,
So-
it's 72 right now. Go ahead.
Beautiful. That's just right. All right. So we were talking about trust. Okay. So what was it? You were going to say something about having kids.
So the kids, when I've talked to my children, is I want them to come to my conclusion. However, they won't own it if it's mom telling them. So I need them to say, that's right, mom, I agree, or whatever it is. But that's what I see a lot in this book is, or the techniques that he talks about, and it's having them own it. Coming from their, from their lips.
Exactly. And you mentioned two of the most important words in the whole thing. If you can get the client to say, that's right. What is that telling you? If you're talking to them and you're using these techniques and they say, that's right, what's just happened?
They just agreed with, they just agreed with whatever you wanted them to agree, but they did it.
Yeah. Take it a step further. You're really, really close.
That's right. Let's go for it.
Does it, if you're voicing something using tactical empathy or one of the other techniques, one of the other tools, and they say that's right, isn't that basically an affirmation that they trust you? Aren't they essentially saying, yes, you
They felt
understand me. I feel understood. I feel safe.
Right.
You see the world the way I do.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that, you don't need sales technique because you're on their side of the fence.
Yeah.
I learned it a long, long time ago that basically said, if I, as a salesperson, say it, it's debatable. If the client says it, it's gospel. If they say it, it's true. Yep.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's right.
So I was sharing with George that I am on page 86 or something. I still haven't read it. Did you finish the book, Brenda?
No, we've been reading it as a team.
Okay.
And we're up to page 118.
Okay.
So chapter 5.
Yeah, close to it. And I love the questions because I actually skimmed the whole book when I had to be with my coach and, pretend that I read it all. Just kidding. I did skim it and I went through and I was like, oh my God, this is a lot of information that, you really have to. And I think the first question I asked you, George, was like, how can I implement, like, should I be already practicing these things? And he's like, read the whole book. Like, get the whole thing under your belt and then start looking at how to get the questions, and practicing the questions. And I think it's understanding the science, right? No.
And I think something, look, I've gone through the book twice. I've read Never Split the Difference 1.5 times. I'm driving to California for a family reunion. It's about a 6-hour drive. Never Split the Difference is about a 6-hour recording. Can't wait to get in the car and listen to it again. And what I found was this book by Chris Voss explains all the technology. It explains the how and the why behind the techniques and why the FBI uses it and how it works and the amygdala and the brain science. And I read this thing, like I said, 1.5 times. one time through and then one time to read all my highlighted parts. And it fascinates me because I'm into this stuff, you know, the way everything works. But I couldn't figure out how do I apply it, you know, because I'm not negotiating with terrorists for human
Terrorists, yeah.
hostages, you know?
Mm.
And this, forget about the fact that it's directly related to real estate, which is beautiful. But this to me said, all right, let's take all the theory here and show you how to make it real, make it practical on a day-to-day use. That's why I love this book. I think, you know, maybe we would have been smart if I sent you all a copy and never split the difference first. But I figure you'll probably get around to reading it because that gives you the big concept. So Ava, to what you said, yeah, read it all the way through first, but don't think that you're going to read this and get it because it's so nuanced. So read it all the way through, get the big picture, then go back and cherry pick a few things that you want to just play with and practice.
Mhm.
You know, we talked a couple weeks ago about doing a cold read. You know, cold read when you first meet somebody, just trying to get a feel for their emotional state. Seems like you're a little nervous. Seems like you've had a great day. You look like you're a little pensive. It feels like you're a little confused. And even if you're wrong, like imagine this in a listing presentation and you notice them shift, you know, maybe they pull back or something. You can get into all the NLP stuff, or you can keep it really simple. Seems like you're a little confused. No, I'm not confused. I'm just thinking about how we can. So even if you're wrong, you're acknowledging that you're so in tune with them that you care about them.
Mhm. Which is, I don't know what it's called. I'm just gonna start looking through the book, but the same thing about even giving them something that you know is not that it's false, but something, and they're like, oh no, that's not it. It's, you know.
Yeah, a label. Yeah, which
Yeah.
is which is
That-
that's
yeah.
labeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is nice because it's a way of going 3 deep and having them do more of the talking.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what I was going to say with that as well, because you said, you know, read it all and then you'll start working on it. It's the more I've been reading, like I was mentioning to George, now I'm listening to people and I'm like really saying there has to, you know, there's another way to ask that. And Brendan, you mentioned going 3 deep, and yes, definitely. I mean, the more, you know, questions you ask, and it's not the same thing, well, tell me more, because I think that gets a little redundant, right? But in the one that is it mirroring that you ask, say, so you're afraid, you know, you don't want to move right now, or you can't move right now, and repeating that, and then, oh yeah, that's right.
You can't move right now.
Right.
And
Or
then
if I said to you, Eva, not in this market.
So not in
Not-
this market?
Yeah,
Right.
and there's several ways you can do it. You could not in this market, or you could say it seems like you're a little concerned about the market.
Mhm.
And the key is what if you listen to Chris Voss, okay? Have you guys listened to any of his recordings yet?
Well, I've listened to his book on Audible.
Okay.
Is that what you mean, or?
Yeah, I just want you to know what he sounds like. Black Swan. I'm going to put.
Well, I actually heard him speak.
I put their website in the chat. It's blackswanltd.com.
Yeah, I heard him speak at an event. That's
Yeah.
how I knew about it.
When he's actually, because he's got just so many YouTube videos, but if you go to blackswanltd.com, you can download all kinds of different stuff. There's lots of free stuff on there. You can look at Black Swan or Chris Voss on the YouTube channel, because what he does so brilliantly, he calls it the late night FM DJ voice.
Yes.
And what you'll notice, what salespeople do a lot of times with an objection is they hear an objection. Well, what was it that it said, Ava, about the market? What was I don't know if I want to sell in this market.
Yeah, I said,
So-
yeah,
Oh,
I
you said it,
I
Brendan.
just gave the objection, not in this market.
Not in this market. And then Okay, so what a typical salesperson does is pull out data. Okay. But you can't overcome fear. You can't overcome an emotion with data and statistics and logic.
Mm.
Not in this market. Is not going to be solved by giving them data. It's going to be solved by figuring out what does that mean?
To them.
Is there, yeah, to them, is there fear there? Are they pissed off because another agent told them one thing? What's going on? And until you know exactly what it is, how can you possibly answer it?
Right.
That's been my long standing for, how long have I been in sales? I don't even want to count the years. Let me count the years. Let me not. Since a long, long time. Since when I got serious in sales, 1980, roughly. Okay. 82 was when I really got serious, 40 years ago. And I used to teach, if the client, the prospect says, you say that. Prospect says this, you say that. All right. For selling knives or things that are a couple $100, maybe. $500,000 in your market, Ava, $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million, that's not going to work. You know, people need to feel that you're listening to them and they're trusted and you're not giving a rote response and then doing a tie down with right.
Mhm.
You agree, right?
You agree, right? That makes sense, doesn't it?
Isn't that what you want?
And then the shaking.
And all the shaking of your head. I used to train this stuff. I used to have the students when we were selling knives, role playing it. You know, wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you. Would you like to go ahead and place an order for that beautiful set of Cutco and taking yourself the kitchen tools and chairs with it?
Mhm.
And then shut up because the first person who talks loses. That was the mentality. That's where all this stuff came from. And it's so contrary to the way human beings are wired.
Mhm.
Brenda, last week, or did I do my fun little thing about the stupid rhetorical questions?
I don't think so. We
All right,
went
let me
over
just-
the no-oriented questions.
Okay, I'm gonna exaggerate this so you can get the point about how ridiculous some of the questions that we've been trained to ask are. You ready? Exaggeration, but not much. You want to get the most money for your house, right? Prospect. No, actually, Ava, I was hoping we would take a loss.
Uh-huh.
Don't you want to sell in the shortest amount of time? No, Brenda, I was hoping we could really stretch the process out to 9 months. If you could make it 12, I'd be really happy. It's a
Right.
stupid rhetorical question designed only to get a false and empty yes.
Mhm.
And it's what everybody else sounds like. So at minimum, if you change it up, would you have any objection to a pricing strategy that moves the house as quickly as possible and protects your profit?
Mhm.
And what do they say to that? No, I wouldn't have any objection to that, but now they feel safe. Would you be opposed to pricing the house so it moves quickly,
Right.
as opposed to, you want to get it sold fast, don't you? Duh.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
so when you, and Ava, I think this is what you're discovering when you start listening to some of the questions that we've been trained to ask, you go, well, of course they're going to say yes.
Mhm.
Duh. So at minimum, let's be different.
And also practicing some of these techniques. I mean, I don't know, I can't talk for you guys, but for me, listening, it's one of those things that I've always struggled with and want to get better at. And why do I say that? Because you might be saying something to me, I'm already thinking, what am I going to respond? I mean, I'm like, oh my God. And especially when with a marriage, right? You have to like listen, really listen, don't want to come back already out with a, so this is great. This is great because it really, honestly, it makes you have to listen, right? Because it's not about you or what you're going to respond. It's about them and what they want to communicate with you. So, yeah. It,
And
it's not easy.
No, it's not, because we have to unlearn what we've learned. And when there's been so much scripting that you have these scripts running in your head. So the client says this, and you ever see the Terminator movie? You guys seen the Terminator?
No.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, all right.
Adam,
Adam
he-
finally chimes
Adam-
in. All right, oh, there it is.
Terminator, yes.
There's a scene in the original Terminator movie where the Terminator, Schwarzenegger, is sitting in a hotel room and his eye is all messed up. And the guy, the landlord or whatever, is knocking on the door and he's yelling something. And the Terminator, you see the Terminator's point of view. You see all these responses flashing by like on a computer screen in his brain. Tick, 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 tick. And it flashes on F you asshole, like that. Right? It's like, tick, 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 brr, this is the response. And he says it. That to me is the epitome of what happens when sales reps learn scripts. We're listening to what they're saying, but we're not listening. We're taking what they're saying and we're saying which is the proper response, because they said ABC, I should say XYZ or JKL. Right? What's the right response? And that's not listening. That's listening to respond instead of listening to understand.
I was going to also say that when you're asking more thought-provoking questions, like when people ask me more thought-provoking questions, like you as a coach, George, it makes me think more. And so I also feel more cared about by you too, because you're not just asking me like simple yes or no, like, oh yeah, of course I want more money, right?
Mhm.
Like it requires a deeper level of thought, which puts you ahead of all the other agents that are asking the very simple questions.
And what happens with the prospect, Adam, when you do that? What do they feel about you that's different?
You care and they trust you more because you
Right.
care.
Right.
Because you're taking the time and energy and thought to go deeper and not just stay on the surface.
Not just stay on the surface. Right.
And another thing that I have noticed, and you've done this with us, right? Because Adam is mentioning,
Me?
asking those,
Oh,
no, asking those type of questions in the way you ask, it brings us down. I don't know if comfortable is the right word to say it here, but the other questions is like, yes, you want to do this, right? Yes, like you're like in a hurry, like to get this over with. When you're like, would it be off base to say that, you would like to sell quickly? It's like,
Well, it takes it more from being a transaction to being more of a conversation.
yes.
there you go.
You're really, then that's where I think the trust and the rapport is built, because it conveys some safety,
Yeah.
some psychological safety for that other person to be comfortable opening up, because it's just two people sitting at a kitchen table having a conversation, as opposed to I'm talking at you. I'm here, I'm going to present you all my information, and
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's something that when you get into a listing presentation, for example, like you said, it's not like putting everything down, this is what I'm going to do for you. And it's like, no, not even look at that. What about selling, where do you have to get to and what's important to you about that? And getting to know them about their kids, if they have kids, or we've been to some places that they have pets, and what's the name of your dog and how long, just off, and just their demeanor, it just, they relax. Like,
It
oh, okay,
slows everything
they're trying to
down.
sell me. Yeah.
Yeah, it slows everything down. Now here, when you guys, if you go back and you re-listen to this recording, you're going to hear a word come up over and over and over again. Trust. It's already been several times. Adam said it, I think, twice. Brenda, you just said it. They trust you when you're asking questions that are deeper. Now, here's the part of the secret behind that, which is the toughest part for salespeople. After you ask that kind of a question, be quiet.
shut up.
Shut up. All right. And it's not the old 70s version of because the first person to talk loses. It's give the person some courtesy and some silence so they can process and think about what it is that you just asked them.
And I think also when you, depending on their personality, right? So they might answer really quick,
They
or it
might.
might be somebody that says, oh, wait a second, that's a deep question. Let me, come up with the right answer, and
Mhm.
they're being more careful, et cetera. But yeah, so you might get like a D type of personality, and they're like, just gonna give you a quick answer. But then you can actually tell if they're not, right? If they go deeper, how they respond to you might be also a telltale on what type of personality they are.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. But think about it this way too. How many times have you been in a conversation with somebody and they ask you a question, and as you're drawing breath to answer, they start talking again? What do you feel when that happens?
That the other person doesn't care.
They don't care. It was just a question off a script. They don't care what the answer is. So ask questions that are meaningful, ask questions that searching for a no, and then be quiet. Here, let me I'll get this. I think I put this up on the website. I'm not sure. If I didn't, I'll put it up again. Let me do. Where the heck is my
Unfortunately,
mouse?
there's a lot of people who do that, including a lot of agents, or especially a lot of agents.
I do that, Adam.
Adam, it's
Unfortunately.
salespeople, dude. Salespeople love to hear themselves talk. All right. And it's rude, yeah. Oops, whoa, that's a little too big. You guys can see my screen.
Yes.
All right. I think I put this up on the Facebook page, but I've got this piece of paper sitting in front of me. If you can just master 6 or 7 of these, you'll be okay. This is the easiest way to turn these yes-oriented questions that we're so used to, the tie downs that all end in don't they, shouldn't they, wouldn't they, couldn't they, aren't you, don't you, all these things.
Mhm.
That was another one, wasn't it? After you get the hang of it, they roll off your tongue, don't they? Becomes easier after you do it a few times, doesn't it? Oh, I just did it again, didn't I? Son of a gun, I can't stop, can I? Whoa. And then there's the inverted tie down, where you put the tie down on the front end of the sentence. And so instead of saying, you want to sell your house as quickly as possible, don't you? Don't you want to sell your house as quickly as possible? You want to make the most money for your house, right? Well, I guess right doesn't work. You want to make the most money for your house, don't you? Don't you want to make the most blah, 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 blah. And then there's the tie down tag on. The client says, I want to get the most for my house. Don't you? These techniques were born in the 1950s, made famous by Tom Hopkins in the late 70s and 80s. They are old. They're older than me. That's old. So let's do it differently. Take those questions that you used to asking and learn how to start it with, would you be opposed to me sharing a story? Would you be opposed to a pricing strategy that would get your house moved?
Mhm.
Would it be unreasonable to do a Zoom visit before I visit the property? Would it be unreasonable to assume if we do a good job that you'd be able to give me some referrals? And a downstroke, not even a question, just a statement. Would it be impossible to stage the property before we list it? It's just so, I like, would it be crazy?
Right.
Would it be crazy to think that you have a price in mind? What a great question. No. And then you be quiet, and they will tell you, because silence is so difficult for people to handle. Or you could simply say, and they'll tell you. It's weird.
Mhm.
Nobody likes the silence. So one of the tactics is to learn to be really comfortable with the discomfort of being quiet one-on-one when you're with another person. Would it be off base is another great opener too. Would it be off base to tell you that we need to drop the price so that you can actually get this house sold? And would it be off base to consider what the market, would it be off base to consider that the market actually dictates the pricing? So there's so many ways that you can do this. And what's weird is Ava pointed it out perfectly. once you start to get the hang of this, you start listening to what is being said, and you go, there's a better way to say that. And then there's a whole bunch of and this is right out of the book. I forget what page this is on, but I took these right out of the book. Calibrated questions. How are you going to feel if it doesn't sell? What happens if you get a lowball offer? And to do it with a real soft voice and a downstroke at the end. That's the part that takes practice. What have I left out? Late night FM DJ. Lull them into hypnotic trance. That's right. You guys want a fun story about that's right? So if you don't have this, I'll make sure I get this up on the Facebook page. Oh, and the puppy agrees.
That's my puppy.
That's all right. Never apologize for a dog, Brenda, ever. In my NLP training years ago, I did a master certification in hypnotherapy, NLP, and timeline therapy. And in the hypnotherapy section, we broke up into 3 people. One was the therapist, one is the client, one is an observer. And the therapist, the hypnotherapist, had to get the other person into hypnotic trance. And all we were allowed to say is, that's right. That's it. It's all we could say. You were allowed to use 2 words and to induce trance in the other person simply by saying, that's right. And it was amazing how 2 simple words would zonk people out when used properly. Every time they exhaled, that's right. They blink a little heavier. That's right. That's right. And even though we knew what was happening, we still went into gaga land with it. So is there a lesson there on sometimes less is more?
Definitely. Yeah, I think less is always more. It's also interesting that the calibrated questions, they're not why questions. Never a why question. That just puts somebody on the defense and.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. With one exception. Well, there's a couple exceptions, but one major exception is if somebody did something really, really cool. Wow. Why did you choose to do it that way?
Right.
All right, now if you want them to go internal and build themselves up. Yeah. But yeah, you're right on, Brenda. Why most of the time can be a problem. Yeah. Why did you do that? Versus
like a negative, yeah.
Yeah, because it's judgmental. You know,
Mhm.
why did you do that? Versus what caused you to choose that option? Now it's a strategy, not a personal attack.
Right. Why would you not want to have a stager come in before we list your house? Why would you want to list it at that price versus what the market's telling
Right.
us that it should be listed at?
Yeah, because I feel like it.
Right.
Good luck getting me to sign your paper now. Right? Yeah, they're gonna get defensive. Yep. So what, how, who, where, when? Anything but why. All right. What would make sense to play with for the next few days, for the next week? Or let me change the question. May I change the question?
Mhm.
What have you guys tried so far, if anything?
I'm laughing because I was gonna say, would you be opposed?
Would you be opposed?
to
Would you be opposed to me
reframe the
asking you a
question
question? Would you be opposed to asking me a question like, why did you do that? What-
I'm trying to think because I mean, there's some questions here, but it's maybe we could listen to how people in our office or, you know, things that we hear that are like, wow, if we were just to ask it this way, and maybe say, okay, this is what we heard, and then put it in the way we would do it, and then just come up with some of those that we could share next week. I don't know if that would help. It would help me because it's just, I think it's training training what I'm listening to, right? How I'm listening and interpreting it, and also maybe like how am I feeling when I hear that? Because I hear other people or script practice, and I'm like, oh, or I'm like, ask this way, or you know, or go 3 deep, you know, because they basically they hear the person answering, and then they just go to the next thing. They didn't even hear. There was one role play, and this happens. You're trying to get the appointment, but if you're listening to the person, maybe at the first thing it says, yeah, okay, I'm ready to go. And you're like, oh, okay, well, why would you want to move? And I'm like, no, they said they're ready to go. Like, go for the appointment, right? Like it's like they weren't listening.
Right.
So anyways, so I don't know if that would help, but
I think it's a great idea. Whatever way helps you to learn is really key. I want to back it up though, just for this is kind of like a little CYA statement that I'd like to make. Would you be opposed if all right. I think I don't want us to get into the thing where we're slamming scripts and dialogues. That's not the purpose of this, okay? Because the scripts and dialogues, when done properly, provide you a track to run on. And anybody who's ever trained it, or if you've gone through Bold, you'll hear it 100 times. It's not memorizing, it's internalizing. So that you have a track to run on, you have some sort of content to deliver back to the client.
Right.
The challenge though is the Terminator thing, where people listen so they note that you can easily get into listening to respond as opposed to listening to really dig in and understand what's going on. And that's where I think the beauty of some of the tactical empathy and the mirroring and the labeling comes in. You know, because if a person says, I'm really worried about selling in this market, you seem concerned. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to get the price that we need. The price that you need? Yeah, well, we need to be able to come out and just let them go. So now whatever you finally get to, now is the root cause of the market statement. And it's rarely is what they say the thing that you really need. It's the symptom, it's not the problem. And this strategy slows you down so that you can slow them down.
Yeah.
And there's an old expression in the military, which is one of my all-time favorites: slow is smooth, smooth is fast. You slow it all down and it becomes smooth, and smooth becomes fast. You can
Is that from the military? Is that a military thing? Is that where it originated?
Yeah, it's primarily, Adam, it's a sniper thing.
Interesting.
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Yeah.
People also use that in CrossFit.
Oh yeah.
That's probably where it came from then.
I'm don't hold me 100% to that, Adam, but I'm pretty sure it's a military thing, because I had the opportunity to talk with some guys that were snipers. One guy was a force recon in the Marines, and this dude, some of the stories he told me, is like, holy smokes. But yeah, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Yep, you find it in a lot of places.
well, if you think about it, if you go slow, right, and everything is smooth, and then they trust you, okay, and then the fast is like, okay, let's go, let's do it.
Yeah, so maybe your listening appointment isn't an hour and a half, it's 30 minutes, because they trust you.
And you don't do all the talking.
Yeah, I was role playing this earlier with somebody. I don't remember where we were going, but we got to a point, and he goes, so what would I say next? If it was me, I would say, how would you like to proceed? And if they said, I want to work with you, okay, here you go. I mean, would you have any objection to reviewing the listing appointment? Or the listing presentation, the listing agreement? Would you have any objection to reviewing the buyer, what's it called,
Broker.
buyer agency?
Mhm.
No, great. Let's go over this. Boom, 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 boom. Is there anything that I left out? Is there anything that you're confused about? Is there anything that you're not clear on? No, no, no. Great. Here, why don't you just put your okay there, and you're
Mhm.
done. I mean,
Yeah,
if
we
you-
don't need to overcomplicate things.
Oh,
We often overcomplicate things, right? We answer questions that aren't being asked.
yes. Oh, I didn't think of that. Yeah, oh, that's a great one. Yeah.
I get caught in that trap sometimes. You wanting to over explain, but somehow answer a question that's not been asked it somehow validates that I'm being thorough. Or that, oh my gosh, I forgot to tell you about this. Like, I don't want to leave any stone unturned, right? Make sure that
Right.
they have all the information,
Yeah. And some people don't. They don't need it.
right?
Well, a thing that comes up over and over in this book is that when the trust is there, you don't need a value proposition because you're the favorite,
I was gonna say you're the favorite, yeah.
Not the fool,
not the fool.
not the fool.
I like also, there's a part in, it's early on, talks about when they don't choose you, right? Because you were the fool and you're like, fine, but always leaving that door open when, if anything happens with the other agent, you're always welcome to we can discuss this again, or, it could come back to me, or just kind of leaving it as an open door.
Yeah. The last impression. It's the Oprah Winfrey send him home in a limo idea. Yeah.
Mhm.
And when you think about it, once you learn this, doesn't it just seem easier? I mean, once you learn it,
Well, there's learning it, and then, like we said, internalizing it.
internalizing, better, good catch, Brenda. Yeah. Once it's internalized. Yeah.
Yes, so, I have the no-oriented questions printed out. I tend to leave them on my desk when I'm doing lead generating, so that I'm not saying, okay, what are they asking me? What's coming? What am I going to respond with? But if there's a moment of silence, I have that in these, the early days of learning this, internalizing it, so that it can become part of my repertoire, just comfortable part of my speak with people.
When you've been doing lead gen with Brenda, what have you found by using some of these no-oriented questions instead?
Well, it has slowed me down.
Mhm.
I have found that I'm listening better. I'm slowing down, and I'm listening for, rather than coming in and answering the question, it's more, would you be opposed to setting a time for us to meet in person and talk about what's most important to you in making this transition?
And what's the response that you're getting? What are you feeling?
Well, my appointments have gone up. I've been crushing my appointments year to date since we've been reading this book, and so I did sign a listing appointment today. I signed a buyer the other day. I have another one coming. So
There's a mic drop opportunity right there. Yes,
well,
indeed.
I have to attribute it. I mean, this is a shifting market, and it's a skills-based market, and this is great content for using this and learning it.
Yep.
It's not something you just study and take a test.
No.
This is something that takes every conversation, every moment, every day, every week, every month. It just will build. It has some
Right.
compounded interest
Right.
to it.
Right. Good. Good. I'm so happy. And by the way, that your answer to my question does not surprise me at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I would bet that conversion rates go up. I would bet that conversations become easier because you sound genuine
Mhm.
and we sound different.
We also feel different.
How so?
Well, I have felt a bit more calm about my day. Now, sure, I've added some meditation in the morning and, some good things. Everything seems to be coming together.
Would it be off base if I asked you that, if I thought that you feel more conversational and less salesy?
Yes. It's
Yes.
more about being in relationships
Yeah, right.
than transactional, which, myself and our team, we've always prided ourselves on that approach, but it's one thing to say you're doing that, and it's another thing to really feel like you're doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, cool. Well, good for you. Congratulations.
So,
That's why Brenda, and I mean, you weren't on my list, obviously, because you're not my direct client, but I bought 40 of these books and mailed them out to everybody, because I read it. It's like you hit the nail on the head. It is a shifted market. It's skills based. And
mhm,
what got us here is not going to get us moving forward. I think it's going
Right.
to take a different set of skills. And for my money,
right there.
yeah.
I also think, and I don't know, if you guys have seen this, but people are more worried. They're more anxious. And I think when you're coming to them as a person that's showing that they care and slows down and, ask them questions that makes them feel like they trust you, it's like, okay, that anxiety might go down a little bit. I don't know if that makes sense.
A total.
Yeah.
You treat
Yeah.
you teach people how to. Calmness is contagious. So is excitement.
Mhm.
What is?
Calm is a superpower.
There you go.
Yes.
I'm gonna say that to my daughter. That's why I have it here. I was very anxious, and I'm like, calm is a superpower. I'm always telling you to breathe, do the box breathing.
Yeah. Slow it
Well,
down. Yeah, slow it down. Get the connections.
to your point, Eva, you had talked about, listening to other conversations to identify where these no-oriented questions might be used. I might actually just start using this with my family to, to start a new jargon, a new way of communicating within the family unit.
Yeah. Look, the thing to understand, guys, about this methodology and why I'm so committed to it is it's based in science. I'm going to go back to Chris Voss, lead hostage negotiator for the FBI, negotiating with terrorists in the Philippines and around the world, negotiating with bank robbers who are holding hostages, negotiating for human lives. You guys negotiate for a few dollars. Voss negotiated for lives. I'm going to listen to that guy because it's based in brain science. It's based in psychology. It's got all the data behind it. And the FBI uses this stuff to this day. That's got street cred for me. Okay.
Mhm.
That's why I bought the book. And understand that learning this and doing it every day, Brenda, to your point, do it. And they mention this in the book. Do it in low risk environment where you don't have an appointment on the line. You don't have a listening appointment on the line. Get
Mhm.
used to tactical empathy, get used to mirroring, get used to asking a question and being quiet, get used to just get accustomed to labeling. You seem a little tense. No, I'm not. It's just my back hurts a little bit. Your back hurts a little bit. Yeah, I was lifting this. Yeah. And just see where it takes it.
Yeah.
Just to play it,
Right.
because it's interesting too when you say a little bit, how much information gets just flows. It's like you're not even pulling it out of anybody. And this is one of the things we learned in MAPS. One of the famous, one of the all-time favorite questions of MAPS coaches. You ready? Here it is. And and
And
Blah. And yeah, yeah, less is more.
I'm laughing, and I know we're wrapping it up, but when Brenda mentioned about the kids, I said, would it be unreasonable to something about making their bed, right? Like,
Yeah,
would it be
would it be
unreasonable for
unreasonable
you
to make your bed before-
today?
Yeah. Yeah. Would it be, Mommy, I want to go to a party. You're probably thinking that I'm going to be a really, really mean parent. You're probably going to be really upset with what I'm going to tell you. You might even be ready to throw a fit. Would it be unreasonable to ask you to clean your room up before you go?
Mhm.
So now they're expecting the worst. Oh, all I got to do is clean my room. Boom. And it's
Right.
done. And yeah, I mean, just that's how you can practice this stuff. That's the accusation audit part.
Yeah, that's the set them up for, they think like doom and gloom. And
Yeah,
then when
it
you
goes-
tell them it's what they conjured up in their mind is a lot worse than what you were planning to share with them.
Exactly.
I have some disappointing news to share with you. Things
Yeah.
didn't go as we planned, and I have some news that I think you might find upsetting. And then they're bracing themselves for it. And then what you tell them, they're like, oh, all right,
All right. Yeah.
I can manage that.
Yeah. That's exactly it. It goes right to the amygdala.
Yeah.
It goes right to the fear. And fear of loss is greater than desire for gain. So you're really messing with people's reality. It's extraordinarily powerful.
Yeah, when I read that,
simple.
I was like, wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's cool, right?
It is.
And then it reminded me of, I don't know if it's a joke, but it's, Mom, Dad, I have a really, some bad news to tell you. You remember that guy that I was dating? Well, we're living together, and yeah, I just found out that I'm pregnant, and it just, I know this is really hard. What? No, I'm just kidding. I just got a D in my test.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh, is that all?
Just okay.
Okay.
Exactly right. There you go. So that's why it works. So the only closing comment I'll say, and I mentioned this to a couple of people today, we were talking about this. This stuff works because it's based on the way human beings are wired cross-culturally around the world. Doesn't matter. We all have a brain. We all have an amygdala. It's the way we are created. So if you're not working with a human being, this won't work.
Right.
So those are the times when you can skip it. That
All right.
includes you, Adam, just in case.
So
So it doesn't work on the puppies?
I wish it would, man.
I know. I wish it would too.
Yes. Wish it would, but biscuits and lots of love for the puppies. That's what always seems to do the job.
So are we
Or-
gonna just a quick, are we gonna work on anything, or is this, I mean, like, what do you want us to? Is it okay?
I like what you, I
Listen.
love the idea of, here's what I would suggest. I think everybody's on this thing at their own pace. I don't want this to be an assignment. Ava, your idea of listening to other conversations, maybe rewriting them, I think is brilliant. You can go to some of the training and print out some of the here's the objections, here's the scripts. I mean, they're all over KW Connect. Just take a page of them and rewrite them. Do a role play with somebody, and instead of doing the script, practice mirroring, practice tactical empathy, practice. It seems like you're a little nervous about pricing, and just to see, let's not in the script, not in the script, and just see what you can do with it.
Okay,
This is like ad lib actors. They're going to go up on the stage and have a topic and just let it run, see where it goes.
all right,
It'll
good.
be kind of fun. Yeah, and in the less, and do it in low risk situations so you can get used to it. Yeah. Oh, here I got a telemarketer calling me. Maybe I ought to play with them.
Oh, that would be fun.
Most of the time I just let them go. Just this one is actually labeled potential spam. It's ridiculous. So, all right, folks, are we good?
All right. Thank you,
Alright.
George.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I'll actually
you.
have this recording up on the Facebook page probably tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, wonderful.
See you guys. Thank you so much. All right. Talk to
Okay,
you
have a
soon.
great night.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. See you, Adam.